In the nerd community, overzealous fanboys are considered especially annoying. In the Gym City, these dedicated fans narrate and give their 2 cents on everything from Batman to pop figures. These fanboys are part of an elite squad known as the Token Nerd. These are their podcasts.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Token Nerd Podcast, where we ramble on about geeky things, ranging from Deadpool to Deadpool to Deadpool. With me as always,
I'm Travis Lyinks.
and I'm Anthony Pettiford. Today we're having a special review, a podcast review about a movie that is Deadpool. I was trying to think of a way that we could break the fourth wall as a podcast, but we really can't do it. So that bit's over. All right, well, since it's a special occasion with our first movie review, and I want to put this out there right now so it's in the space, this is a spoiler-filled review for the Deadpool movie that just came out.
Was there another Deadpool movie?
You never know. There were several Girl with the Dragon tattoos that came out that no one really knew about. Anyway, so we decided that we were going to bring on a third voice to join us for the podcast. With us today, our new token voice, our token movie critic, is the casual movie fan, Addison. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me, guys. I'm a big fan.
There it is. Good for you. So tell me, casual movie fan. So just give me a little background about you. So I know you've been an up and coming movie critic for the past year-ish, right?
Yeah, about that. I've been doing movie reviews for a while. I actually did movie reviews for you when we were on the Dynamic Buzz for a while. Yeah, and then I kind of branched off. I kind of felt like I was bigger than that. So, yeah.
You know what? Forget you.
Wait. Savage.
Okay. Anyway, Addison is an up and coming movie review critic. He's posting some really, really, really good reviews over at casualmovie.com. He also has a Twitter and Instagram at casualmoviefan. So definitely go down there, send him some love. I've read he just did a non-spoiler review for Deadpool, and I read it and it was incredible. Grant, we saw the movie together, so it's not like there was something I didn't know. But let's tell the fans a little about it, because I'm assuming that everyone listening to this podcast has already seen the movie. Because the whole point of Token Nerds is to extend the conversation. So we're going to briefly go over the way we're going to structure this review will be an overview, our initial thoughts of the movie, our pros, our cons, and then we'll give it an overall rating from 1 token to 5 tokens, 5 tokens being the best, and 1 token being the worst. All right, so Addison, since you are our guest, tell me a little bit what you thought about the Deadpool movie, just your overall thoughts.
Well, at first I had no expectations for this movie. Ever since the beginning, I was just not that interested in a Deadpool movie. I wasn't a real big fan of him in the comics, but once the marketing started for this movie, I became more excited for this for the movie because of Ryan Reynolds and because of what the marketing department was putting out there for it. So that got me more excited. And then when I actually saw the movie, I was expecting something a little bit more offensive, because that's what all the critics were saying before the movie came out, was like, oh, if you get easily offended, then this isn't the movie for you. But as I'm watching it, I had these high expectations of, really raunchy humor. The humor was still raunchy, but it wasn't as bad as I thought, so I was able to laugh more with it. And yeah, the action was really cool. The jokes were funny. The characters were really cool. So yeah, it exceeded my expectations.
Okay. And Travis, overall, what did you think of this rated R movie?
Well, I was very happy with it. Similar to Addison, I didn't really have a lot of expectations. I'm not saying I wasn't a fan of the character, because I did enjoy him, but it's one of those things that could go either way. Mm-hmm. If done incorrectly, this is a horrible movie. I mean, this character could go south really quick. And luckily, it didn't. I think in this case, Ryan Reynolds, being such a fan of the character, actually worked in the favor of this movie, because he passionately wanted to make a good Deadpool movie. So unlike the prior attempt to add Deadpool to a movie, it was done so that it would impress the fans and it would also honor the character and the source material where they pulled him from. So I was happy. I mean, obviously we're not trying to get too deep right now, but I guess let's hear your overview, Anthony.
Overall, with the Deadpool, I'll be the first to say, back when we did the Dynamic Buzz, when they announced it, when I was doing the Dynamic Buzz with John, they said, "Oh, we're having a Deadpool movie," and I originally thought it was gonna be a PG-13 movie, and I was not for it. I said, "This is gonna be an awful idea. It's stupid. He's an overrated character. Blah 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 blah." And once again, I was wrong. This movie was great. This movie was what I think Kick-Ass wanted to be. Yes, Deadpool is an anti-hero. He's an actual comic book character, and technically so was Kick-Ass. But where Kick-Ass was trying to make fun of the superhero element by it being a real world thing, and there's like, oh, this is kind of silly. Like, the villains are silly. The plot is silly. This is what that movie did. It was a satire movie, but it was done it's a serious satire.
Yep.
Like, obviously the villains and all that were kind of funny. He goes off and says, well, I'm not really a superhero, and he calls out he calls off all I'm trying to think of the right word for it. All the stereotypes of a superhero movie.
Yep.
But overall, what I just loved about this movie is it was funnier than I thought it was going to be, because like Addison said, it was going to be raunchy, and people said, hey, just be aware that it may offend some people. So I was expecting it to be really bad. I was more offended by Ted than I was by this movie. Yeah. And I know
they had to be cautious, because after 2015, everybody's offended by everything.
That's a different topic, a different podcast. But no, overall, I love this movie. There was a funny point when I went to see it with Addison and Abby, and we were walking up the steps, and there was a dad there with his two young kids. Like, one had to have been 10, maybe the other one was 12. And I know people are saying, oh, it's rated R, but it's fine. I wouldn't have taken anyone under the age of 14 to see this.
Yeah, there's no way a kid that's 9 or 10 could process anything in that movie.
Happy National Women's Day.
Yeah, that was the other thing. But that'll go into Frozen.
I mean, I just don't know why you would take your kid to see this. There were plenty of warnings from Deadpool, the character of Deadpool, in the promotion for the movie. Plenty of movie theaters had signs that said, "This movie is not for kids." If you did any research as a parent, and you'd say, "Why is this movie rated R?" There was plenty of material out there that told you that this movie was not for kids.
You can tell by the Red Band trailer.
Yeah. I guess I'm expecting people to research and be a parent, but there's no way that a child should be watching this movie.
No, not at all.
Well, most likely they went off from the TV spots. So
that's true, but there were red bands.
Yep.
And I guess you're right. Technically, no parent's going to. A lot of parents who are just taking their kids to see this. It's like a parent nowadays who's going to take their kid to see like TMNT.
Yeah.
They're not really. They just see the things on TV. They're not looking up. And like you said, they should be real parents and research the movie.
Wait. On the trailer that's on TV, it says rated R, and rated R means 17 plus. Period. So, as a parent, that should be a flag. Maybe I should look into this if I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And there was plenty of warning, like I said, at movie theaters and stuff like that. I mean, I guess at a certain point, if you're a ticket salesman at the movie theater, maybe that's the next level they could have said. They could have said, parent, this movie's not for kid. But I don't really feel like it's the theater's job to do that. I guess only in a NC-17 situation is that required.
Which I would have thought this movie should have been NC-17. I mean,
I don't think there was enough raw sexuality for that. I mean, yeah, there were strippers.
There were strippers, but there was full frontal. I know there are some.
But there wasn't like sex, and that's what NC-17.
Okay. Yeah.
Like hardcore sex is the beginning of NC-17.
That's right.
Not hardcore, but
softcore
or something like that. But no, I just noticed that, especially like you see Ryan Reynolds' junk, like, and that's the funny part because I was
like an illusion.
I was talking to a friend there who like and that's what you noticed. Like there was a point where he gets thrown, and I was like, "Yep, that was it. There it was. It wasn't real. Obviously, it had been CG. That's the reason it's that long. But no, and there was full frontal for some of the strippers, and but it was like we said. I heard I think it was Double Toasted. They were talking about it, and they said that the R that they would give this movie would be the R that comes to the end of the N word, like that hard R. But no, overall, I really like the movie, and so I kind of want to move on. Like, let's transition over to, and we kind of talked about like what were our favorite parts.
Yep.
And just for the sake of us not rambling on, let's maybe your three favorites. Three favorite things that happened in this movie, and we'll start with Travis. So, what were your pros of the Deadpool movie?
One of my favorite things about the movie is anything involve the cab guy. So when he's like talking to the cabbie's kind of explaining the situation about issues with his girlfriend and the guy that's trying to take her away, and taking Deadpool's advice, which is probably the worst idea ever, to take any advice from Deadpool, but this guy does. And the second cab ride, and the guy's in the trunk, right? So he gets hit. The part that most people probably didn't catch on this is that when Deadpool and them get out of the car and walk on, the cops are gonna come, right?
You're gonna take him away.
Wait. And all those guns are still in the car.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that.
So wait. So Jenny pointed that out to me, and Jenny's my girlfriend, by the way.
Yes, we have girlfriends, people.
She pointed that out roughly like 2 hours later. She's just like sitting there, and she's like laughing to herself. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I'm thinking about that cab driver, and when the cops get there and all those guns are in the car.
And a dead body, apparently.
Yeah. But no, the guy's not dead, is he? He's still alive when he gets hit.
You just heard a loud scream, and then you saw the
Oh,
accident.
well, usually that comes before death, right?
But the guns being left there is by far probably one of my favorite things about the movie, because it's one of those, like, it's not like sophisticated comedy, but it's one of those things that you like think about and you're like, holy crap. So that's one of my favorite things. My other favorite thing is kind of how they integrated the origin story throughout the story. So it's like you're watching the story that's happening, but you're also getting tidbits from the origin story. And then the origin story kind of takes over for a little bit, and then it kind of like, boom, we're here. Time. I thought that was a really cool way to work that in and educate people that may not know about the character, but also at the same time not insult people that do, and not make an entire movie that is only origin. I did see some critics that were complaining, saying, oh, it's just another superhero origin story. But I think it's a little more than that. It's not straight up, here's his origin, and that's all the story you get.
Mm-hmm.
So you get origin plus a little bit more.
Yeah. On that note that you said with a lot of critics saying, oh, it's another superhero origin movie or another origin movie, that irritates the crap out of me, because it's just like, did you know that the original Hunger Games is technically an origin story for that? Yeah. That's Katniss's origin. Every first movie is an origin story, people. I hate when people say that. It's like, come on.
The Hobbit is an origin story.
It's an origin story. So that was
the prequels, the Star Wars prequels.
Oh my god,
they're an origin story.
Anakin Skywalker, the origin. But no, so that's two things so far, right? Do you have one more? One more thing that you liked about this movie?
Let's see. I enjoyed the bartender. I thought he was kind of a nice
TJ Miller.
TJ Miller is his name. I thought that was kind of a nice addition to the story, to kind of add that other element to Ryan Reynolds, and kind of have that tie-in that ends up being kind of the downfall of the for Francis to find him. But, but I thought it was kind of a cool like somebody else is providing the comedy. And other supporting characters. What's her really long name? The girl.
Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
There we go.
He is on it.
Okay, if you haven't paid attention to our other podcasts, I'm really bad at names. So,
No one's gonna hold that against you.
but I thought she was kind of a very interesting addition to the movie. I thought the comments about how come every time I come to this house, there's only two of you guys, like I thought that was kind of funny, and I think she like was a good mix for somebody that's like, Ryan Reynolds is obviously like not middle age, but like in his like 30s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like
40s.
maybe 40s. Yeah, he was in the 90s on TV, so yeah, probably. But somebody that's kind of like still thinks they're cool type thing. Deadpool's character kind of like I'm still cool,
Yeah.
and then like throw a teenager into it, and quickly like realize that everything you like is kind of old.
Yeah.
I kind of like maybe I just kind of identified with that, but I thought that was kind of a cool way to play off each other as well.
Yeah. For me, my pros, and I'm trying not because in my mind I just want to list down everything you said plus a couple of things, but then I take whatever Addison would have to say for his top. But for me, huh?
I said, man.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to love about this movie, and like you said, the Mohinder, the cab driver, was great. What was his name, Addison? What's the bartender's name? T.J. Miller.
TJ Miller. He
T.J.
played
Miller.
Weasel.
Yeah, Weasel. He was hilarious. I love that back and forth they had. You look like an avocado, like another avocado. Like that was really funny. But for me, and this wasn't the humor of it. It was the relationship, because I kind of was annoyed of the fact that he had a love interest. I thought that was dumb, because Deadpool is just supposed to be the merc with the mouth. He is just like, he's supposed to get in shenanigans. He's not supposed to fight for some, like he will fight for somebody. He isn't in love with somebody.
I thought in the comics he did have a love interest.
Yeah, but I just was hoping that for this movie there wasn't going to be that. I was just because the mainstream Deadpool that we have now, he just kind of goes and does things. He has no attachments, no ties. But that's what I loved about this movie, and I genuinely felt for this couple from the moment that they meet, and they talk about how screwed up they are, and they even say this like cheesy, like, it's like a jigsaw puzzle with the picture on top, and we fit together. And you see them like it's like Happy Valentine's Day, and they're having sex with Valentine's theme. And at one point, it's like, as Addison said, it was Happy Women's Appreciation Day, and she does the old strap on. But no, I love that. I loved the scene with them. The moment, or the scene when they find out that Wade Wilson, who's Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, has cancer. I teared up. Like, I didn't think I was going to go into that, but there was a moment, I've talked to Addison about this too, is when he talks about, oh yeah, well right now Vanessa's going through plan A to plan Z on how we're going to handle this, how we're going to fix it. And he's like, and all I can do is just freeze in this moment and memorize every feature on her face. And like that was really good. And that's what makes this movie awesome, because it shows that Ryan Reynolds has a wide, we all know that he's a good actor, but this movie showed a range.
Yeah.
It wasn't all just comedy.
Well, the movie had to have that though, because if it didn't, it would have just been a boring movie with a guy
what
that goes
I'm
around and kills
saying
people.
is that I knew yes, it had to have it, but I didn't think it was going to work the way it did.
Yeah.
Where, I was invested in them. Like I thought that she was going to die. Like I kind of wanted her to die. I thought, okay, that would make sense. But by the end, I was like, no, I want them to work out. I want him. Or if it was just kind of like it was like the Bruce Banner in the cartoon. Like he never went back to Betty. He just had to leave her and go on. But obviously that's not what happens in the movie. The second thing I loved about this movie was Colossus. We've had 2 movies so far. Yeah, 2 X-Men 2 he was in it, X-Men 3 he was in it, and Days of Future Past he was in it. And they were awful. I mean, he looked like Alex Mack. For those of you who grew up in the 90s.
Wow. There's a reference.
Yeah. So whoever voiced him I like the fact that he was very straight edge. He was very Russian, because the last one you really didn't get the feel that he was Russian. This one that was not a Russian accent at all. The accent was strong. He was the straight man. He was very strong. My favorite scene that I remember, I leaned over on Addison. I was in tears laughing so hard, because it was when the Colossus puts the handcuffs on him, and he goes and like nut shot, and he punches him and like breaks his arm. And he goes, "Oh, your poor wife!" And then he like goes and kicks him and breaks his legs, and he ends up breaking all of his limbs. Funniest part of the movie. And I can go on and on and on. The third thing I liked was the fact that they fought on a helicarrier. That was that was a crashed helicarrier.
Ah.
But technically, they're not in the Marvel universe. But that was the helicarrier.
Yeah.
I'm assuming no one's confirmed that, but no one's told me I was wrong. Granted, no one's really paying attention to what I say.
All 5 people.
All 6 of you. But no. So I love that part. And then, but you said Mohinder is gonna have all those guns in his car. I think the second movie, because we know that he made that joke at the end in the post-credit scene that there will be a second one, and they really want Cable in it or something. I think the next movie or a future Deadpool villain will be Deadpool, because I know they did there's a comic called Deadpool versus Deadpool.
Yep.
Or Deadpool kills Deadpool. When he cuts off his own hand, they never say they obviously, so he grew back a little hand. What if the hand that he cut off grows back into another Deadpool? And that's even crazier than he is. And so that's the main villain of the next movie. So it's two immortals going after each other. And he has to find a way to completely kill himself. I don't know. That's just
That's a fan theory.
That's a fan theory for you folks. So Addison, what's your casual thoughts on the Deadpool movie? Positive. What's your positive? Sorry. We've already gone over that.
Well, you guys both kind of hit all the areas that I wanted to talk about, so I'll just talk about them very briefly. Like you guys said, the interactions between Deadpool, Colossus, and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, I thought that was probably some of the funniest parts of the movie, because you have the straight edge mentor character with Colossus, then you got the teenage rebel with Warhead, who pretty much did not care about what Deadpool said or did. All she wanted to do was just bring him in with Colossus. And yeah, Colossus being just what
she was still the intern.
Yeah, more or less. And when some of the best parts with the Colossus, especially at the end, when remember guys, this is a spoiler, when Deadpool finally has the villain pinned down, he has a gun to his head. Colossus goes over this long speech about what it's like to be a hero, and yeah, some people were actually complaining like, "Oh, that's so cliche." It's like, well, that's the point. It is cliche, and he's like, "Hey, we don't wake up a hero. We don't eat breakfast as a hero. It's only 4 to 5 moments, and bang, Deadpool shoots the guy in the head anyways, and he vomits." So
he's like, "Oh, you didn't."
So yeah, I really love the interactions between the supporting characters, especially with like you said, T.J. Miller. I thought that was hilarious, like their back and forth in the bar. Even with his blind roommate was also pretty funny too.
Yeah, those were really funny.
Though I felt like there wasn't enough of her, that I almost didn't really care that she was in the movie or not. Even though it was still funny, I didn't truly care about her character like that.
Like her building the IKEA stuff.
Yeah.
I love that.
Also, like Anthony said, the romantic part of the movie was actually really well done. And usually I don't really care for romantic storylines in my superhero movies. The only one that I feel like actually kind of worked was the Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy, mostly just because
they were in
they were actually in a real relationship, so I actually kind of bought that, and they're so adorkable that it hit somewhere in me. And so yeah, I actually cared about these two characters, even though they were two pretty much the worst people. Like when they first meet, they kind of talk about like whose life is worse, and they kind of came up with these very, very dark origins of themselves. Like Vanessa was talking about how she had uncles who did not do good things to her. So, and you on paper you really shouldn't care about these characters, but for some reason the way they tell the story and how they both find that sickness in each other, and it just works. And a third thing, the action, I guess. The action was actually no, the action was really good.
The action actually,
yeah. Actually, it was it was pretty well choreographed. The fights between Ajax and Deadpool, even though they never really did explain like, okay, yeah, you were indestructible, but now you're also a ninja and very nimble.
Yeah.
and a master of swords. So
they jumped there. It was like, oh, we're good.
Yeah, so it comes with the power.
Yeah.
So, and also another good thing I really liked were how they did Deadpool's eyes.
Yeah, actually, that's another thing I didn't mention because it was very animated.
So I kind of hope that at some point that technology will be applied to Batman, so we can finally get the
Me too.
the white in Batman's eyes. So when he's angry, he squints, and when he's like shocked, it turns into ovals. So yeah, those are some of my positives. I mean, there's a whole lot more, like the comedy and the comedic timing of all the characters. But yeah, the Tim Miller, I think, is the director's name. This is his actually first feature film. So I give full props to him and the writing staff who've actually been working on this film for over 6 years.
Mhm.
This film has been in the on the back burner for a long time, and they finally got it right. And so, yeah, congratulations to those guys.
I'd heard that the success of Guardians is what got the green light.
Oh, really?
Well, it proved, I guess,
You could
that
have that
they can
kind of
have
humor.
that kind of humor, but also characters that people don't really know um, can be successful in the movie. You know,
Mhm.
because prior to that, there were some movies like in the early Marvel waves. I mean, Hulk and Thor didn't do as good
Mm-mm.
because people don't really know them as well.
Yeah.
You know?
But the one thing that, like you said, the humor and they said we're gonna take it to the rated R and then we'll boost it. I am afraid. Excuse me. And I guess we can use this as the transition to my cons about the movie, where that I'm afraid that people are going to think that, oh, it's because this was a rated R movie and they there was no balls to the wall. That's why it was funny. That's why it was so successful. Or even a rated R movie. And we know that we had Blade. Blade was the starter of the superhero movies.
What
Like
about The Crow? Right? Was that one too?
that was one too. But see, you're right. But to me, it was really Blade.
Yeah.
It was the Blade trilogy. But
Well, it's not really worrying about people misunderstanding. It's Hollywood that we have to worry about. So are we going to see other R-rated type superhero movies? I think in some cases it can work.
it could. But I know Todd McFarlane.
Yes, new Spawn movie.
Yeah, conveniently that he just came out with this script. He's been working on
He's
that.
been holding that.
No, not even holding. He was like, oh god, like this is my chance. If it does well, I'm gonna have this movie. And I mean, no, I'm sorry. I don't. I think this movie really worked because I mean it's not hard to explain. This movie works because it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a superhero movie. It was not how Kick-Ass was,
Yeah.
where it was so realistic and you just got your butt kicked. I mean, it was a superhero movie and it just happened to be really funny and it was rated R, but it was R in the right places. It was
Yeah.
R to the source material. And,
Yep.
we'll get Spawn, and yes, it could be R and graphic and they can cuss, but it won't bring the humor.
Yeah.
And that's what made Deadpool
Well-
successful because everyone could see it. You could take your girlfriend or boyfriend, even if that
Yeah.
person, either a significant other or family member, wasn't into it. Like I have an uncle, and both my uncles want to go see it, so I'm gonna go see it next weekend with them because they're not usually into the superhero genre, but they're into comedy, and they're
Yeah.
really gonna get that.
Yeah. I think some superheroes could lend themselves to R-rated movies, not necessarily because of comedy. Obviously, the violence or the darkness of some of the Wolverine stuff. I think some of those stories you could probably make an R-rated movie out of it. Not just to have cussing,
Yeah,
but
well, that's what we had to be afraid of.
yes, but it's not. Again, it's not people misunderstanding that or fans. It's Hollywood. If
Mhm.
Hollywood misunderstands that and they're like, "Oh, we've got this really cool character that people like," that Wolverine guy, or like some people pushing for that R-rated Green Ranger movie, or I guess it was PG-13. But if somebody came along and said, "Oh, let's make Hellboy, let's make another one of those, but let's make it R, just because,"
Yeah.
that's what you got to worry about.
Yeah, I just want to go on to the record of saying it's not Mohinder. That was the character. It's Dopinder. Dopinder. I just didn't want anyone to correct me later. One of the six
So-
of you.
So that's the biggest fear. I don't know if the casual movie fan has anything to add, but about the fear of Hollywood. But
Well, right now there is actually a rumor going around saying that the third Wolverine movie, which will be Hugh Jackman's last movie, that there's a possibility that could be rated R. And also, if you look at the if you got the special Blu-ray for the Wolverine, the most recent Wolverine movie,
Yep.
there's actually a rated R version. So I mean, there is a possibility, but again, the success of Deadpool wasn't the fact that it was rated R, is because it was actually a charming movie. So you can
Yep.
make as many superhero R-rated movies as you want, but it's not going to get that same charm that Deadpool has. I think
Yep.
that's what people are kind of misunderstanding. It's like,
Yep.
oh, it's rated R, but yeah, you can make it rated R, but it's not going to have that charm. And I hear a lot of people online talk about how they want Batman to be rated R, which makes no sense because that's look,
Makes
the
no
most
sense.
recent Batman v Superman trailer that came out that opened up with Batman laying out a bunch of guards. I don't see how making that rated R would change that scene, because that's
Well,
what
Batman doesn't kill.
yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
he
and that's
doesn't
what you
kill.
Why would it be R?
and that's what you want to see. You just want to see Batman lay people out, and you don't need to see blood splats all over the place. So yeah, the idea of that is kind of weird. There are only certain characters. I do think Spawn would work out as rated R because it was kind of already told from a rated R kind of point of view because it was part of Image.
Yep.
I think just going back into the cons, I think a few of my cons were actually the villains, because even though the movie was very aware that it was only about Deadpool and Deadpool's the only one that mattered, but I kind of felt like Ajax and Angel Dust were kind of weak villains, and that's the big kind of issue in a lot of superhero movies, is that the villains aren't memorable.
No, I agree with you. But one thing I did like about him, though, about Francis Ajax, was the fact that there was no redeeming qualities for him.
Yeah.
I like Loki, but there's the sympathy card, like you feel for him. Even the Dark Elves in Thor, which was a very much throwaway villain, but it was for his race. It seems like every single Ultron had, he thought he was doing the right thing. They always give us these villains, and you're like, oh well, maybe they aren't real villains. This guy was just bad. There was nothing good about him, and he got what was coming to him. But and that's funny, as we've been trying to transition into the bad of this movie, and it hasn't happened yet. No, so
What's your name? Let me spell it out for you.
Yeah.
Dead bodies.
so just real quickly, and I'm trying to dig and nitpick about what I didn't like about this movie. I thought that I'm trying to think really hard about what I didn't like about this movie. See, I'm trying to have dead air, but I can't really think of anything I really didn't like.
I feel like the stuff we don't like about it is stuff we're scared of. Like,
Yeah,
that
like,
Hollywood's going to misinterpret it.
we're anticipating what's coming.
We thought that the villains were kind of weak. I mean, Francis, I kind of liked. The other chick,
Angel Dust.
didn't really care. She didn't really do anything for me. So I'll agree on that one.
Yeah.
She's weak.
What would be kind of cool is, since this is technically, God forbid, it's the Fantastic Four universe as well, but it's the X-Men universe. What if Deadpool shows up in a X-Men movie as just like a haha scene? When he cusses, it actually censors him out. Like there actually is a beep, and he acknowledges like, what was, and he keeps cussing, it keeps beeping him out, and he just goes with it. Or
And
everything.
the little girl's like, "This isn't the rated R one."
Yeah, something like that. That'd be funny. But no, overall, I just think that the love interest, as much as I loved it, and I thought it was a very big pro, at the very end, they get back together. I mean, they're together, and I was happy for them, because if it was a one-off, I was like, yeah, good for you. But now we have to play the story that, he still has a love interest. So either she has to die or he has to leave her. So there's going to be some kind of drama in the future that has to happen between them. But I don't want her to end up being a damsel in distress for every movie.
Yeah.
Because they all know who he is. But he's technically killed everybody.
That knows who he is.
Yeah, who knows who he is. Addison, can you think of anything that was less than desirable for this movie?
Like I was saying earlier, it was mostly just because of the villains. They were kind of weak. Francis was kind of evil just for being evil, and I know you said there was no redeeming qualities of him. All I could really think of when I was watching the movie was like, wow, he's a dick, and that's pretty much it. Like, there was like, oh my god, when I see this guy, I want to just tear his heart out. It's like, no, it's like, this guy's kind of a dick, and there was like no real motivation behind his character. And then poor Gina Carano, who played Angel Dust, studios will not let this poor woman talk. She actually did a movie called Haywire, and apparently her acting was so bad they had to dub over her voice with another actress. So,
Wow.
and if there's actually, it's clear as day. I don't know if they did this on purpose, but there's a scene where you see her talking, but the camera is faded out and you don't see her mouth move at all.
Oh, that's
Yeah, so it's like
miserable. She's that bad.
So I was like, wow, and she really only had like 2 lines. So I'm like, just let the woman talk. So yeah, the villains, they just didn't do it for me. Even though I liked them because I thought they had some really cool fight scenes between Angel Dust, Colossus, and Warhead, and then of course you got the sword versus axe with Ajax and Deadpool. So yeah, that worked out, but overall the character's motivation was just not enough. Just like, oh, we're gonna sell you off as a super slave. Okay, is that it? So yeah, just the villains. But those were just little cons and a big pro of the movie, and that was
Yeah,
just
and even
following Deadpool.
and even Blind Al, I'll say, the scenes that she was in were funny, but overall she was throwaway. Like she brought in a couple laughs when she put the IKEA stuff together and it fell off, or that she had guns laying around, or she was kind of, you know, I don't know. I get mushy about movies. Like in that scene when he left her and he said, "Hey, I love." Okay, maybe this is another pro. When he says, "Hey, I love you," I just want you to know there's like what 12 100 or 1,000 kilos of cocaine next to like the anti-blind like medication or unblinding medication.
Yeah. Okay, we've lost Anthony there. He is now falling on the floor and laughing about that comment.
Oh, it's funny.
So we've kind of gone over the pros and we've kind of gone over the cons. So what are you excited about for Deadpool? For like where Deadpool could go?
I'm excited for.
Wow. Speechless.
Okay.
That's where he's at.
No, I'm excited for what two's gonna bring because, like I said, this could be a once in a lifetime movie where yes, it was really funny because we hadn't had anything like this before, and between this movie and the next movie that's gonna come and the second Deadpool movie, we're gonna have more movies like this because that's what Hollywood's gonna do. Now it's gonna try to reproduce this movie, and it's probably going to take away what was really good about this movie. So I'm more afraid of what Hollywood's gonna do to it. Not even to it, but what this movie was. It's going to defile what was funny, what was good about or what was great about this movie. But I am excited for like Cable.
Yeah.
I'm excited for an R-rated superhero universe where it's not turning the superheroes we have now. It's not making an R-rated Superman, Batman, or Wolverine movie because yes, Wolverine could be an R movie, but we don't need him to be. Like it, he could do more fighting. Okay, completely different podcast. But no, like if we introduce Domino, we introduce Cable, we introduce, I don't know. There's a cornucopia of people who were in, X Force and
well,
in that series.
My excitement, kind of, I feel like I'm a passion breeds passion kind of thing, and I think that Ryan Reynolds and the guys behind this movie love the character and loved making this movie. And I think that kind of came out in the promotion and the studio kind of agreeing to do some of those really out there promotions, such as the skull, the poo pile emoji.
Oh, yeah.
And the
breast cancer
L.
and the testicular cancer.
Yeah, yep.
Ones, yeah.
So I think that passion is what made this movie so successful. And I also think that is what's going to carry into number two.
Number two.
And I saw the article, I don't remember who wrote it, but they were talking about.
We get better at referencing our sources.
Hey, they were talking about the fact that Ryan Reynolds has gone on record saying that his number one priority after Deadpool 2 is getting an X-Force movie.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I just think it's exciting that people are this excited about making it, and I think it's also exciting that studios are listening now more to what we're saying about what we want to see, and I think it's really cool that things like in X-Men: Age of Apocalypse, they post Apocalypse and people are able to complain, and it appears the studio listened because there's been changes made to the costume or the CGI, whatever they ended up doing. But it's just cool that like things like we want to see Deadpool, we want to see it done correctly, and it got done correctly. Like I think that's the coolest thing.
Yeah, but I think the most important thing is that studios don't listen to the fans too much.
Yeah,
They got to make sure they keep
that
their
balance.
vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if they just listen to what the fans say, then it's chaos. So I think it works. It works with Deadpool, but yeah, you just gotta keep it with just a Deadpool character. And yeah, with the whole apocalypse thing when he looked like Ivan Ooze from Power Rangers. Yeah, there are certain things where listening to the fans is a good thing, but yeah, you gotta keep
Yeah.
that balance.
Well, it's it's kind of like in Star Wars as well, where we just wanted to see a good Star Wars
Mhm.
movie, and I'm not saying the studio listened. They kept their vision, but they made sure that they honored the past and honored the excitement of the stories. Like so, when you sat down, you're like, oh, I'm watching a Star Wars movie.
Well, also Star Wars was made by Star Wars fans, so it's not just like they were listening to the fans. They are fans themselves, so they know the problems that the original
Yeah,
Star Wars movies had.
yeah.
So
And I kind of felt that's what happened with Deadpool as well. Fans of
Mhm.
Deadpool made a Deadpool movie, and it
Yeah.
felt like a Deadpool story.
Yeah, because we're kind of in the age of the fan movie
Yeah.
when you really think about it. 'Cause these, like, even though the studio heads are the ones who put out the money for it, and they're the ones who kind of control it, but the writers, the directors, the actors, they're fans of these properties now. So yeah, so it does kind of become it's the age of the fan movie.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been saying for such a long time is that we were saying, well, comic book writers should start writing the movies because they'd be better because it's story driven rather than like the early superhero movies where we thought, oh, this is just an action film with superheroes in it, and like we
Right.
saw with Star Wars, even the first Star Trek, no one wants to give Star Trek One or Into Darkness, props, but J.J. Abrams was a fan of those properties, and so was Simon Pegg, and that was brought into the movie.
Yep. The
He's actually a fan of Star Wars. Like he said he liked Star Trek, but he
Yeah.
was a bigger fan of Star
but
Wars.
with Star Trek, the
Mhm.
Star Trek movies, as much as people want to like dog them and say, hey, this isn't our Star Trek, what it did was it confused people that didn't like Star Trek and made them think they did. And what that did was it added excitement to a property that had kind of, I'm not saying it had gone away, the excitement for it, but it had kind of went underground. It was not in the mainstream. It wasn't on TV. The last couple of series they had were not successful. So that movie re-excited people and brought a new fan base that didn't exist before. I'm sure there's a ton of kids, maybe 15 years old, went and saw those movies, and now they're excited about Star Trek, and maybe they went back, watched the older stuff. Like that's what it needs. Um, it needs new legs because if new legs and new fans don't come in, you're not going to be able to continue on with these series, continue on with these properties, and still have um, new life and new things and new excitement for the property. Um, Star Wars was able to bring in a whole new group of fans, regardless of what old people want to say, with the prequels. There's a lot of kids that would have never got into Star Wars. That's my dad's thing, or that's like if they had not done the re-release in the 90s of the originals and then followed by the prequels. As bad as those movies, people want to dog them. He still brought in a whole new generation of fans and has kept this alive. And that's the kind of stuff that people your age or my age, we're going to pass on to our kids.
Mhm.
And as long as these Star Wars movies keep coming out, it's going to keep coming. So with the comic movies, now that we have that, fans making movies, making good movies, we're going to remember these as good movies. We're going to expose our children to these kind of movies and continue it on. And that's what's got to happen. It's just if these things are going to survive and be like the the lore of America. Like kind of the gods, goddesses stories, mythology. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. If they're going to be that, you got to get new legs, and you got to get good stuff, good product, good things that people want to get sucked into and want to buy toys and figures and hang posters on their wall and do all these things.
Mhm.
Because if you don't, it's going to die.
And just going back to what you said, Star Trek was dead. I'm not gonna. It was dead.
Well,
you said it was underground.
No,
It was
the
underground
fans were
because
dying.
it was underground. It was in fans' hearts.
Yeah.
People had the DVD collections. They had their toys, and that's where
Yeah.
it lived in the fans.
Well, but like Star Trek always had the mythology as well, though. The whole
it
whole
was the
mindset,
thinking- it was the thinking man sci-fi.
Yeah, I never got, so because I never was a fan of Star Trek.
Neither was I. The only time we actually watched Star Trek was with our dad because he was a huge fan of the Next Generation. So whenever he would come home, he turned it on and
Fell asleep, and then we didn't watching it.
yeah, and we watched it. So that was our kind of only introduction to Star Trek.
But I will say I went and watched the first Star Trek movie that came out from Abrams, and went home and I said maybe I need to give this another try. And I did watch. I tried to watch a few different of the series and struggled to get in it. I did watch Deep Space Nine of all the ones I could have watched, probably the most. Like I got the furthest in that one, but yeah, it's just not a series I've been terribly interested in. But in order for other things to continue on, we gotta have that new excitement. And I think, kind of doing that with Deadpool or doing that with other franchises is the key to this. The more superheroes that are involved in this, the longer this can go on.
Right. So now I'm taking over the podcast. So let's give Deadpool a score because we kind of went on a tangent for a little while. So
We kind of got off topic there.
Yeah. So 5 tokens being the best, you're not taking control. You're still always going to be the little brother. 1 token being the worst. 1 token being Wolverine Origins. 5 stars being spectacular.
5 tokens.
5 tokens. Thank you. 5 tokens. All right. So Addison being the guest, what is your rating for this movie?
Well, when you check out my own review at my website, casualmoviefan.com, I gave it a 4 out of 5. But now that I kind of had time to kind of reflect on it and really think about what the movie was trying to tell, like the story it was telling, I'm actually going to give it a 4.5 tokens out of 5.
You're going to break a token in half.
I'm going to break a token in half.
Token, please.
So, yeah.
All right, Travis, what are you going to give it?
I really enjoyed the movie. I think there were a couple of things that could have been better as we addressed with the villains and such. I think it's a 4 out of 5 tokens there. And I just really, but I give a 4 out of 5 to a lot of things probably. So it's hard to get over a 4. You just really have to knock it out of the park.
4 is still an A.
Yep.
Or something weird because I'm giving it a 4 as well. Looks like that Deadpool came through. He proved me wrong. He proved 2013-14 me wrong. We all enjoyed it. It seems like the country, multiple other countries who haven't banned the movie, are enjoying it. So yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5, and that seems to be our average score. I don't have to do the math for that one.
Yep. I think I'm excited that there's money. I mean, this is again another example where if you put out a good movie that people are interested in, it will sell tickets.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I know, like original movies that are not tied to a property struggle to get out there, but if you put out a good movie, people will go.
Yeah.
Whether it's rated R or not.
Yeah. It's just good storytelling.
Yep.
So, is this it? Are we wrapping up?
We're gonna wrap it.
First ever movie review.
First ever movie review / our first ever threesome.
Wow.
I said it.
You took it there.
I had to. This is the Deadpool podcast.
Only in the Deadpool podcast.
We talk about threesome, blowjobs, and Women's Appreciation Day.
Wow.
Yeah, that last part we might need. We might want to
Wow.
cut that part out
Oh,
because
wow.
we definitely have one fan who is going to text me about this later.
Which the kids call pegging.
So, so in closing here, I guess we'll throw out there that this is the Token Nerd podcast, and if you want to keep up with what we're doing, make sure to check us out on Instagram at token_nerd, or on Twitter, also token_nerd. Um, and also, if you don't agree with what we're saying about Deadpool, or you think we left something out, or just want to say, hey, you can leave comments down in the comment section below. You can also send us fan mail. We'd love to have some fan mail, and we will read it on a future episode. Just go ahead and send that to tokennerdpodcast@gmail.com. And really, I mean, this is, we had a pretty good showing at the theater, and we really just want to see more good movies. And hopefully, this is just the kickoff for 2016, where there's lots of great movies, and specifically for us, superhero type movies.
Yeah, there are some great things coming in 2016, and this is just the big thick tip of the iceberg.
So just also one more thing, I'm going to let Mr. Addison here go just tell you where you can check out his items one more time.
All right, you can follow me at Twitter and Instagram at Casual Movie Fan, and check out my website, casualmoviefan.com. Yeah, I post reviews and my own thoughts on just regular movies, and I cross over to TV every now and then, giving my opinions on that.
So
Classic
as
Japanese
always,
films.
Oh.
And classic Japanese films.
In classic Japanese films, yeah, I'm a big fan of Akira Kurosawa, so I'm tackling each movie one at a time.
All right.
So as always,
All right. As always, I'm Anthony.
and I'm Travis.
And I'm Addison.
Stay spicy, my friends.